Okay, you know what they say, nothing is certain but death and taxes, but taxes can actually be a lot more painful, unfortunately.
I think so.
Well, Jason Deshayes is a CPA with Robert F. Butler, and Jason, can you ease our pain?
I think I can.
Okay, good. Well, let's talk first. First of all, good morning. Welcome to the show. Good to have you. And let's talk about some of the changes to the tax code that are actually coming down the pipeline.
Well, there's a lot of reporting issues that are coming in. Like this year, you have to start issuing 1099s, which are informational reports to people you do business with. So if you have a small business or perhaps you have a rental property, a lot of people are taking houses, buying a new one and renting the old one. If you have a contractor working for you and you provide them more than $600 in cash for their services, you have to send them a report. And if you don't, it's a $50 penalty per report you don't file. So it's very, very expensive if you don't file these reports, and it's not hard, but it's one more thing you have to do.
One more thing you have to do. I mean, the $50 is not worth it.
So imagine if you don't do 10, that's $500 in penalties you have to pay just for not filing a piece of paper.
That's significant.
Yeah.
That is significant. And many New Mexicans are struggling. I mean, they've had to actually cash out a lot of their retirement plans in order to just pay the bills on a regular basis. So many have also been receiving a lot of unemployment. I mean, that's been a big thing with the benefits. So how can the people that are out there right now avoid a big tax hit, which they most likely can't even pay?
The key thing is when you're taking that money out, and especially with a retirement plan, if you cash it out, there's usually a penalty attached to it. So 10% of what you take out is an extra penalty. You need to make sure you have adequate federal and state withholding to help cover the income tax, because usually what they do is they take it all out and they don't forget about the taxes, and then you end up having a big tax bill at the end because you didn't have the money taken out before you got it. So I definitely recommend, if you're going to do it, and it's a dire situation to do it, make sure you have withholding on it.
I mean, that's a scary thing because, you know, when you think of the choice that you may have to either have more taken out early on or not, at the end of the year, it will come back to bite you.
It will.
You're
paying now or you're paying later.
Exactly. And so it's better. It's almost like an unspoken savings.
There you go.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can think of it that way. And I actually read something about what they call a 401k hardship withdrawal. Can you explain that?
So a 401k hardship is when you have a very heavy and immediate need for cash. It usually has to do with medical, funeral, sometimes with buying a house that you need to pull cash out of your 401k. Now, it lets you get out of the penalty, but and not all plans let you do it. So you have to be very careful that your specific 401k plan allows you to have that kind of distribution. So you have to check with your employer to make sure that's the case.
So if somebody just said, I don't have enough money for rent this month, I need to go into my 401k, is that something that's
I don't think that qualifies. And not going and getting a new TV for watching basketball or football or something doesn't count either.
No betting. Well, what about to avoid foreclosure? What about something like that?
That can be definitely a immediate need because you're trying to avoid foreclosing or losing your primary residence. That could qualify.
So that could qualify. So keep that in mind. Now, who should take advantage of the services that an accountant can provide? Because a lot of us think we can do it on our own, but we need the professional help, don't we?
Well, it takes the average time it takes for based on the IRS calculations, about 24 hours to do a tax return from start to finish by yourself.
Really?
That's a long time. That's like watching a full season of your favorite TV show, an hour-long show, just to do your tax return.
Interesting.
Small business owners definitely should take advantage of it, and I think individuals whose personal circumstances have changed to the point that they just don't feel comfortable with all the new rule changes and the rates changing, all this stuff, it's just best to have a professional on your side.
Especially if you've had a job loss this year or a divorce or something that's just cost you more money or put you in a different financial situation. So now there are a lot of benefits, obviously, of working with a CPA, but what are the benefits of a CPA versus the tax software?
So we all use software, and you really want to make sure that your CPA does use software because you don't want the person doing it by hand.
Yeah, you don't want anybody antiquated working on something
I'm going to do the calculation myself. There's a lot of room for error there.
Right.
A CPA provides the true financial advice. They can get the same final product. I mean, they'll get a tax return now of both a software and a CPA.
Yes.
But a CPA will be able to talk to you about, is your withholding adequate? Do you have something coming down the pipeline? Are you starting a new business? Are you getting married? What happens when you merge families together? What happens if you get divorced, if you have kids? All those things that we can have in a discussion, talking about what's going on, and we can provide financial advice to help that. We do, my firm does 400 some tax returns a year. We see that for 400 people. You get the value of that experience with all these different circumstances. We can bring that to you.
And everybody has different jobs and different circumstances, so you're able to kind of combine that experience and knowledge, which is helpful. Now, what other creative business advice can you provide as an accountant?
Well, as a CPA, we don't necessarily always just look at the numbers. We'll go through the profit and loss of a business and say, have you thought about looking at your insurance a little differently? Have you thought about changing your benefit structure? How are you handling supporting your employees in terms of benefits you provide them that's not necessarily cash, but what can you do to help increase your bottom line, keep your employees happy, and maybe do things to kind of distinguish yourself against your competition.
That's interesting. That's helpful. And I guess a lot of times people are thinking, well, how can I pick the right CPA? I mean, what would you advise them?
I think that you need to look at personality.
Okay.
You have to make sure that that person and you can talk and that you can communicate well with each other and that you're on the same page with how you operate and how they operate. And so you can take in time to interview them. And I think you should interview CPAs and make sure that they know, you know, this is how my personality is, this is how I do business, this is what we do differently than our competition, as you need to know that as a client.
Yeah, and depending on what your job is, I mean, for instance, somebody maybe that works like my job, I would say, well, there's a lot of different things I maybe can claim, so you would be able to advise somebody what they can claim and not get in trouble. And
exactly.
Yeah.
And certain CPAs have expertise in certain areas. Some are really good at nonprofits, some do physicians and lawyers and professional services, and you need to know that they can do that.
And of course, on the screen right now, you can see all of your contact information. Let's remind everybody they can call 821-0893. Time is getting closer.
Time is now.
We got to do it now. Jason, thank you so much.
My pleasure, Nikki.
So
Thank you.
nice to talk to you and very helpful advice. And coming up next on New Mexico Style, the soulful sounds of Hector Pimentel. You don't want to miss this.